I want to build the very first motorcycle road racing dynasty, similar to NASCAR, where
Yeah.
there's 4 rigs, 4 separate teams, and 4 sponsors,
Wow. Yeah.
4 primary sponsors. That's what I wanted to build. I still do. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, yeah, good luck," yeah, right, and roll their eyes and everything. But if I aim for that and I have only one, great.
Rick, I'm super excited to be talking to you today. Thank you very much for being on podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so before we start, why don't you introduce yourself? What do you do? What's the most amazing job or second most amazing job you do today? What is that?
Second most amazing job I had was when I worked at Apple. Most amazing job I have right now is I own RG Racing.
Right, you are the owner of a motorcycle racing team, right?
Correct.
RG Racing.
Correct.
Yeah. How did you get started, and what was that like to start that?
I decided years ago, and of course, I don't know how to start a race team. So there was a lot of figuring out, a lot of talking to different people, and a lot of mistakes, and a lot of not doing anything. As a matter of fact, most of the time was not doing anything. It was just sitting around, not in a position to get anything started, and having the race team on the back burner. It was actually several years. So it all started similar to Anthony Watt when he was on your first podcast. He's a friend of Breon Poland, and that's how it kind of started. So I was a photographer for a little magazine in the San Jose, San Francisco Bay Area, and I showed up at an AMA race to photograph the race. And this was back when it was a Corona Suzuki.
I remember.
Corona Suzuki,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And I showed up, and they had a videographer there, and he didn't know where the media center was. I showed him where it was. His photographer was sick and didn't make it. I said, "Well, hey, I'll give you some photos if you want." And he was amazed that I said that, and I'm like, "Are people really that unfriendly that they don't help out other people?" I guess they are. So
Yeah.
he introduced me to Breon Poland, and the team owner was Tim Saunders. And I got to meet the team and the racer and everything, and it was a really good time. And that's how it all started. Now, I started to meet other race teams and owners and riders, and I found out, hey, a race team is just like any other business. And of course, I own my photography business, and I had a small little business doing personal financial services. And I figured, you know what, motorcycles are my passion, and I love racing, so let me put together my own race team. So yeah, that's how it all started, and it was years ago. When was Corona Suzuki? Before Corona Honda.
Right.
I'm not sure what year that was.
Yeah. And now you can't be Corona anything. I mean, now you would have to change that team name, like,
Right,
which is being
right.
bad connotation. So, I mean, as a race team owner, that must have been a big leap of faith. How much of your time is spent, being the manager versus being the fanboy of motorcycle racing, versus being the marketer versus being the sponsor? How much of that? How do you juggle your different roles?
Well, it's not too hard when you have a team that handles a bunch of it. And these past 2 years, especially last year, and I guess probably more so even 2018. I took a really smaller role. This past year was more like helping out Andrew a lot, at the racetrack, and making sure that he had everything that he needed when he needed it, like his helmet, his gloves, and his suits ready for him. And in 2018, I really wasn't in a position to really go to all the races, so I have an actual job, so I didn't make it to the majority of the season in 2018. 2019, I went to all the races. It was actually a really good time. Juggling everything else, of course, all the sponsor farming happens off the track. It doesn't happen actually at the track. So, you know, so there's not really too much of a conflict in time there.
So how hard it is to get sponsorship in 2019? Well, now it's 2020. How hard is it now to get sponsorship? Is it easier? Is it harder? Because the sport is popular, but
Yeah.
it's not as popular as it can be.
Right. It's very challenging. So I have a problem with calling things hard. And because my whole philosophy on that is, nothing's really hard. You just when you figure out how to do something, all of a sudden it becomes easy. No, the level of difficulty of that task never gets easier. It's just easier for you because you've learned something. But at the same time, if a company is not in a position to sponsor you, then they say no or not right now. In your mind, a lot of people like to say it's hard, but it is what it is. It's all about relationship. You gotta build a relationship with a sponsor or potential sponsor. They have to know a lot about you and the team. I talked to Procter and Gamble a few years ago. They of course went to the direction of social media more than race team sponsorship, and so they said no, this is the direction we're going in. But in the whole conversation part of it was they mostly wanted to know about the team. They wanted to know about each individual person in the team. So I actually tailored my proposal according to what they requested. And the two things that they really wanted, number one, they wanted social media exposure. Number one. Number two, they wanted hospitality at the track. And there was no number three. That was kind of really interesting to me. They didn't care about winning. They didn't care about anything else but those two things.
Interesting.
So, yeah, definitely two things that we definitely could have done.
Now what do they mean? Maybe break it down for me, because what does it mean by hospitality? Does that mean that when they sent like a VIP to the racetrack to watch the race, they get the best treatment possible? What does that entail?
Right. It's like kind of like VIP. You get the lunch, you get the roped off area, I guess you could say. And a lot of companies, well, some companies, how they do it, like, for example, NASCAR, Square D Racing. And a lot of people don't know what Square D is. They actually make electrical panels and maybe a lot of other things too. I'm not really sure. And why would they want to market their company to the average Joe who doesn't even know what Square D is? That's because that particular company used the race team sponsorship as incentives for their employees, whether it's sales, is like if you reach a certain level, they send you to the race in with their sponsored race team and spend time with the race team in the hospitality. If you are like some of the, I guess it would be technician or maybe the line workers, then if you have low accidents and less injuries, then they might reward you with the same type of things as salespeople. They don't always use it only for marketing exposure. There's a lot of different ways companies can use a race team to further their business, to do something positive for themselves. Because companies are all in it about, it's all about themselves, right? As a matter of fact, I just had a conversation with another racer's dad, and I would tell him, like, you know what, when you go after sponsorship, it is never about you and your racing. It's never about your son. Right. It's 100% about what we can do for you to help you in your business. And if you can give someone what they want, then you can have what you want.
That's a very interesting philosophy. Now, is that something you've had to learn through your time owning the race team, or is that, you learned that from a previous job? How did you figure things out like that, of that nature?
I actually learned this. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books. I do audiobooks when I can't read, like in the car. I turn my car into a classroom. Typically when I'm flying to races, I have my headphones on. I'm listening to audiobooks. I just continually pound this stuff in my head because, I didn't grow up with this. Of course, everyone in my family are employees. They don't own a business. So it's not like I can learn a lot of this stuff from my parents or anything. They're more employee minded, which is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm an employee right now. But if you want to do something else, if you want to play football, then you have to think like a football player, right? Or whatever you're doing. So
Right.
I had to change my habits, and to change your habits, you have to change your thoughts, because everything comes from a thought. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Before you eat that hamburger, you have to think, I want a hamburger, right? So everything comes from a thought. And so I had to pretty much had to change the way I was thinking, and it took a long time. There's a lot of things that I found out that I did not know, and I hope I'm doing pretty good. I don't know how to gauge myself. I don't know what I don't know, but
Right.
to me, it's a constant learning every day.
When you're running a racing team and you have a fair amount of employees that depend on you, how much of it is hands-on, where you're literally involved in all the meetings, all the testing, versus just letting it run itself? You put the right people in place and you go and you relax and you don't think about it for weeks or months on end. How much is hands-on time?
Um, for me, not much hands-on time. I let it run only because I didn't come from racing. You know,
Mhm.
it's not like my dad's Chuck Graves or something like that, where where I can get all the knowledge from my dad, right, or
Right.
mom, whoever it might be. I have to figure everything out on my own. So when I have someone like Andrew Lee Racing, or I have Derek Keys as a crew chief, I trust that they know what they're doing, and it's proven that they know what they're doing, that I just let them do what they do. And if I can help, I'll help. But
Mm,
I don't force myself on them. I don't force my opinion. I might have a question.
right.
And sometimes if I want to give out an idea, I don't tell them. I ask, hey, how would this work? Because there's one thing that I learned in a past job, that if you tell someone how to do it, they don't like it. It seems like a lot of adults don't really like to be told. So if you put that same idea in a question, then they're open to listen, because everybody wants to tell you, right?
Right.
So if I put in a question, they'll tell me, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea, or no, that might not work, or you know
Mm,
what, let's try it, or whatever it might be.
yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, now with nobody doing anything, what's going on with the team? How are they staying busy? What's the path moving forward? Is there still going to be races in 2020, or is that pretty much done?
you know what, I think for us, we're so far right now, if they say there's a race next weekend, we're not going to participate. We can't.
Mm,
We were talking to a company about sponsorship for this year, and everything was looking really good. All this COVID stuff happened, so now it looks more like 2021. They
mm.
said yes. They said, yep, we're gonna move forward with the sponsorship. Everything looked really good, and yeah, COVID-19 happened. So we're just waiting. Andrew's he's just at home itching to ride. He does dirt bike riding for training. Derek, of course, he works for Kawasaki, so he's working there.
So in terms of, I guess, in terms of like the day-to-day operations and with everything being frozen, how much generally does it cost, ballpark figure, does it cost to run a team or to own a team? Because to me, when I hear somebody owns a team, I immediately think of guys like Michael Jordan, who's, financially
Yeah.
really, really well off, who can afford to spend the money,
Okay.
right? And I'm
Yeah.
not saying you can't, but what is that
Well,
ballpark like?
yeah, I'm not a rich guy. Not yet. I'm working on it, and
Okay.
I have some things going on outside of racing, where I'm working towards that. I'm actually working towards funding this thing on my own, while I'm looking for sponsorships. I don't like downtime. Like I
Mm,
said, if there's a race coming up next weekend, I want to be able to participate. Um, and I need money in the bank if sponsorship doesn't come through. So, how much does it cost? Let's see. You could probably do it on a really tight budget for non-super bike. Uh, Probably around 100,000. Some people might be able to do it for less if they already have transportation set up. Um, for super bike, oh man, it just depends on how much money you want to put in your equipment. You throw in the bike in the back of a pickup truck, and you have all the money in the bike. The the Superbike might cost for just one, probably around $100,000, maybe a little bit less, just for one Superbike. Then you need spares. You might need a backup bike. So it gets pretty expensive pretty quick. Just one Superbike is about what we spent last year.
Oh wow!
And last year's sponsorship actually wasn't even of my doing. Franklin Armory actually approached. I'm not sure if it was Andrew or Andrew's dad. So that was really their deal. I actually came on board and helped out Andrew more than Andrew coming to ride for RG Racing. It was kind of in a way a partnership where Andrew probably really had more to do with that. Since he got the sponsorship, he had the responsibility of booking the airfare and hotels and things like that. But I think his dad might have helped him out with that.
And Andrew's a crew chief, right?
Andrew's a racer. Andrew Lee's a racer.
Andrew's the racer. Okay.
Yeah. Derek's a crew chief.
That's right. Okay, that's cool. How did you get involved with Andrew anyway, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay. Yeah, this is a really good story. Okay. Years ago, I don't even know what year it was. I was working at ADT selling alarms, and I went to Fairfield, and the homeowners wanted to set up an appointment. I rang the doorbell, and they dark housed me. They were no answer. So what we're told to do was put door hangers on around the neighborhood. So a few doors down from where I was, I recognized a truck, and it had was it AMA or something like that? It had something AFM or AMA on the back window, and I said, "That's Dave. I know whose truck that is." So he used to work for Leo Vinci, which they changed it to Speed Mob, owned by TC Tim Calhoun. And so I knocked on the door, and Dave also, he's like, "What are you doing here?" So he let me in. We had some coffee, and I told him that, "Hey, I'm looking at this racer, but I'm not really sure." He's like, "Dude," he said, "You know what? You need to look at Andrew Lee. He's a really fast kid. He's already on his 600." I'm like, "Okay, all right." And so I wrote him down. He's actually in my tablet in the notes. Forgot all about him, and years later, 2016, I bought a bike with the intention of putting Jake Holden on it. Remember Jake Holden from Corona Honda and Michael Jordan?
Yes.
So,
yes.
So I'm talking to him, and he says, yeah, he wants to race. So I'm like, okay. So I bought a bike, got it, turned it into a race bike. Jesse Kaler put the race bike together, and Jake decided that he wanted to back out, which is fine. We didn't have the big budget. We didn't have really. It's like he's got to go back in time and struggle all over again. He really didn't want to do that, understandably. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine. No big deal. So I'm like, okay, what are we going to do now? Because I got to break in this bike. And before the bike was done, I went over to Jesse's house and I brought some parts over, and Andrew Lee was there, and his dad was there, and Jesse was working on their 600. So, Andrew and I were talking, and we just decided that, hey, you know what? We should keep in touch. So what's your Facebook? And he's like, okay, Andrew. I'm like, okay. Look, I'm like, oh, we're already friends. Right. And it never dawned on me. Later on, I'm not even sure when, I'm like, I was going through the notes on my iPad, and I see the note that Dave Christensen told me about I should have Andrew Lee race my bike. And I was like, holy crap. And of course, he wasn't on a 1000 yet.
Right.
And I was like, holy crap, this is that guy. It's like, is this meant to be or what? I didn't know. And it was really interesting how all this thing actually fell into place. And I ended up telling Andrew and his dad about it. I know I told his dad. I'm not sure if I told Andrew. And so I needed someone to break in the bike. I asked Jesse, I said, hey, I think I want Andrew to break in the bike. He's like, well, he's not really a 1000 racer, but, I think if he's going to break in the bike, I think it'd be fine. I'm like, okay. So one particular track day at Sonoma, he, I called him up. He said, yeah, sure, I'll break it in. So he went out there, and he broke in the bike, and he impressed me because he didn't try to impress me. And he just did what he was supposed to do, breaking the bike and not really push it, and he did just that. So we got the bike broken in, and Jesse took the bike later on, put on the dyno and tuned it. And So I'm talking to to Andrew and his dad, more his dad,
Hmm.
and I said, I think I want to put Andrew on the bike, and his dad wasn't really sure because I don't think Andrew ever rode a 1000 before he broke in that bike. I'm not
Wow.
sure. I should ask him. So I'm not sure if he did. And it was the last race in AFM at Buttonwillow in 2017, and he raced my bike. He actually got pushed wide at some point. I want to say it was the first turn, and so he dropped behind the leaders, which is I want to say Wyatt Ferris and Tyler O'Hara, and Andrew came in third behind them. And his dad was impressed, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Even before that race, I said, Andrew's going to win the championship. I'm gonna watch. He's going to be national champion. And I don't know if I said it. I don't think I did. But my thought was he's going to be national champion soon, not really 5-10 years down the road.
Sure.
And so he took my bike. I got a job where I had to work weekends. It was like a real crap job. But I could not make it out to Chuckwalla, where he ran the winter series. So he just took my bike, and I think he might have been by himself most of the time. And he won the shootout championship, which he beat out everyone. It's actually pretty impressive. So he's definitely a 1000 style rider. And then he took my bike and he raced the AFM race the following year in 2018. His dad bought another ZX10 to stay out on the road to race MotoAmerica. And of course, he won the championship there also. But in AFM, he lost one race in 3 classes. Formula Pacific, I don't know what the other 2 classes were. 2 other smaller classes. We came back. He came back from Japan because that was the same year he ran the endurance race, the Suzuka 8-hour endurance race.
Mm-hmm.
So he came back one day after the practice, and I picked him up from San Francisco airport, and we drove out to Thunder Hill. But I was tired. I fell asleep, and he took over. He drove. And so I was tired. I imagine he's tired because he just flew in. I think he got maybe 2 hours of sleep that night.
Wow.
But at the end of the weekend, he was done. He was through. It was the last race of the weekend. He came in second. But the whole season, he won every single race that he entered, except for that one. And he took 3 championships. Yeah.
That is crazy.
It's pretty impressive. He's really good. And then, of course, you might know that, 2019, he won the championship. There are a lot of people that actually doubted him. They said that he may not win the championship in 2019 because 2018 was easy because there was no really, people said, I'm not sure how true it is. I'm not going to take anything away from all the other racers that raced in 2018 in Stock 1000. But some people said that he didn't really have too much competition. But, being fairly new on the 1000, I would imagine that someone could have easily said the same thing about him. I don't think so, but anybody that doesn't know him could have said the same thing about Andrew. Right. But he won. He won the championship.
Yeah,
2019. Okay, do you know about the finger?
No, I don't know about the finger.
Okay, here's another story for you. Another long. No, it's not too long actually. So 2019, beginning of the season, he actually won the first race. He passed Michael Gilbert. I think it was two or 3 turns before the end of the race, last lap, and he won. So the next race after that was he's racing for Chuck Graves now in AFM, developing the ZX10. I want to say it was the first race at AFM. It was on a Buttonwillow. He crashed, and his left pinky got pinned between the handlebar and the ground, and as the bike was sliding, and it ground his pinky down to the bone.
Ouch.
Yeah, I got some wonderful pictures of that. And so now he can't grip. He couldn't really grip with his left hand very tight. So going into MotoAmerica round 2 in Virginia, is that right? In Virginia, he didn't do very well. And I would imagine, I didn't hear anybody say this, but I can imagine people saying, yeah, see, this is just what I thought. He barely won in the first race, and look, he came in 4th in the second race. So, he had an injury. the next race weekend, I can't remember what was round 3. Do you remember what round 3 was? I don't know.
No.
Okay. The season, only the first time I went through the full season was last year, so I can't remember what round 3 was. Anyway, was it Wisconsin?
I wouldn't know.
No,
Dan,
it was
do you remember?
Wisconsin. It was
Dan, do you remember?
Wisconsin. Yeah, it was Wisconsin because he didn't win 3 races. He got a first, fourth, third, and second, and then the next race after that he got first, which was Utah. So yeah, that's right. The next race weekend was Wisconsin, and he came in third in the first race, and he came in second in the second race. But at this time, they found out about his finger, and now they know that, oh, this is why. But after he finished with his non-winning races, he won every single race after that for the rest of the season. So we all wonder, if he didn't crash at AFM, what would 2019 really look like? Would you have swept the season? We don't know.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Yeah.
Because he's booted from the class. He can't race in stock 1000 anymore. So.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
I can't remember I don't know what MotoAmerica calls it, but it's something. At one point they said it was entry level. I don't know how it could be on a 1000, but that's what they called it, something like that. I don't know what it's called. And so he was able to race in 2019 to defend his championship.
Right.
But if he didn't win the championship, he would have been out. It was like it was when MotoAmerica had the Superbike and the Super Stock 1000 and racing the track at the same time. And then what they did was they split it, and they told everybody that if you finished, I believe it was top 10 in the Super Stock 1000, that you have to go to Superbike. You can't race the Stock 1000 class. Right. So it's that rule. So if you finished, I don't even know if it was top 10. I don't think it's top 10. But if you finish in at least first, then you can't race the next season. Actually, not first, because I just said that if you win, you can defend your championship. Right. But yeah, he got to defend his championship. He did that, so now he's out, and we have to figure out how we can get money for Superbike or possibly do Super Sport on 600. But so Superbike's the goal.
Is the racer who's not allowed to come back, or the whole team can't continue to do Super Stock?
It's the racer. So okay. if Andrew could to get on board with another Superbike team, and we can if we had to get another racer, then we can still stick with Stock 1000. But we can only have a racer for a maximum of 2 years until they move on or we move on with them. So, and I think it would be good if we moved on with Andrew. I kind of want to stick with Andrew. He's actually a really great guy too.
Yeah.
He's kind of like me. We're both kind of smart asses, but
nothing wrong with that.
yeah. He's a really great guy. Yeah, I mean, if people got to know him. You have to know him. You have to know his humor, and then when you know his humor, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah. How much of a change is it to go from 600 to 1000 beyond the obvious horsepower difference? Is the riding style completely different? Does the body mechanics change? How much of a difference is there?
You know what? On the street, I've owned a 600, a 750, and a 1000. And I can tell you it doesn't matter so much on the street, but apparently in the track it does. I was never a racer.
Okay.
I've only been on the track once on my brother's 600. It was a 93 600 Honda CBR F3.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, F2.
Okay.
And yeah, a little 125 passed me. That's how horrible I am on the track. But on the street, my friends say that I do pretty good. So I guess I'm all right for the street, but on the track, I'm nothing. I'd be in the way.
Yeah.
So the riding style and what it takes to jump from a 600 to a 1000 or vice versa, I wouldn't know. But I keep hearing people saying that it is different. Of course, the announcers on MotoAmerica talk about how 1000 is more like a point and shoot, and the 600 they talk about roll speed. And I've heard people coaching on someone on the 400 mention roll speed as well. So I guess the 400 is also realizing a bunch of roll speed. I guess for the bikes that if you have less torque to pull off the turns. You want more roll speed to get off the corner faster. I
Mm-hmm.
guess. I
Yeah.
don't know. You might want to talk to a racer that's raced both. You might have a better answer than what I have there.
Yeah. No, I'd love to get a racer on. If anyone's available, if Andrew's available, I'd love to have him on sometime.
Yeah. I gave Dan his number. I gave Dan Andrew's number, so
Okay.
you can call him up.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Do you ride today? Do you still ride on the streets today?
I don't. So I love motorcycles. I turn 51 next month. I don't know at what point your reflexes start dropping off.
Mm.
So I don't want to find out. Also, what I really love are exotic cars. So I'm working on something. I think I'm leaning towards McLaren,
Nice.
but I do like the 812 Superfast because it's a bigger car. It's more of a grand tour. Because I'm just not going to be carving up canyons and stuff like that in the car. So I don't know. I'm not sure what I want. I like the 720S. It's a good size. It's light. But we'll see. I don't know. I got to take care of the racing stuff first.
Yeah. No, I mean that's awesome. I think I saw in an episode of Top Gear or one of the shows where they had I think it was the 570 Longtail, the McLaren Longtail.
570S.
570S. Okay.
Yeah, it's the 600 Longtail. The 600 LT is their racer version of the 570.
Yeah, maybe that's what I saw, and I think from a looks perspective, I mean they're all super fast. From a looks perspective, I think McLaren for me is actually the move. That's what I prefer over like Lamborghini or Ferrari. As great as they are, I think McLaren's just a little bit more special because it's a man's car, like it's a dude's car, right? I don't have to explain it. I don't have to tell you, oh, I bought a Lamborghini because I like cars. Right? When you have one, the girls like it. There's not a lot of explaining to do, which is what I like. What do you drive now?
I drive a Ford Fusion. It's just a sedan. It's just to get me from my 2-hour commute to the Bay Area because the office I work out of is actually in San Francisco. But I've been working from home for a couple months now, which is nice.
Which is very nice. Yeah, I also have not as long a commute as you, but mine's about an hour each way, right? And I'm so liking working from home. I can't wait to stick it to the boss and say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm not gonna come back if I have to start commuting again.
You know what? The industry that I actually work in right now, my regular job, we work with a bus company. As a matter of fact, we have to say we have the tech company for commuter buses, and we have the owner owns a bus company and the tech company both. And Intuit, well, we have a lot of companies. One of them is Gilead Science is actually developing a cure for the coronavirus right now. They think they have something. But anyway, some of these companies, they think that 30% of the people will stay working from home. So a lot of people are saying that nothing's really going to be the same from, when everything goes back to normal. It's not going to really be so normal. I guess it is kind of good because the traffic will be lighter.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll continue to work from home.
Yeah. I mean, even I know I have friends who own companies. And they're decent sized companies, 500-600 people. And they said before Corona hit, we were going to buy a new building. And now there's absolutely no need to buy a new building. We just, the sales guys are doing their job. We just keep them at home, right? And as long as they're bringing in the numbers, I don't see the need for them to commute, every day, right? So
right. I'm actually worried about that because if they can't buy a building, does that mean they can't sponsor a race team? Which, back when I first put together my first marketing deck, one of the things I looked at, I can't remember the name of the company was. They did research, and they're saying that race team sponsorship is more effective than any other traditional forms of sponsor of marketing.
Really?
Well, when you think about it, okay, TV people, they hit the remote, they want to fast forward past that commercial and get back to their show. Radio in your car, change the station when the commercial comes on.
Right.
Excuse me. And magazine, you flip to your article. Right. No one wants to look at the ad because it's actually an intrusion. I'm here to listen to my music. I'm here to watch my TV show. I didn't turn on the TV to watch your commercials, except for the Super Bowl.
Right.
But a race team, when you think about it, not only are people rooting for, the Franklin Armory Graves Kawasaki, they're actually rooting for that company that sponsored. They're actually willing to wear the T-shirt that does the additional marketing when they're at the track and off the track. That they actually want to be a part of it. Or TV, it's an intrusion. Radio, it's an intrusion. So it's actually, I don't know any other TV commercial or radio commercial where people are willing to get a tattoo of the company logo. In racing, they do.
Right.
Not necessarily for motorcycles, but I've seen it in NASCAR. I've seen tattoos, T-shirts. They wear them all over the place. So it's actually less costly. I actually have a former coworker that used to work in advertising business in, he says, his words, a medium-sized market like the San Francisco Bay Area for a print ad is for 1 quarter is between $40 to $60 million for 1 quarter.
Wow.
For 3 months.
Blow my mind, by the way.
Yeah. And so I said, well, they do that for 4 quarters? He says, no, they do it in the second quarter.
Right.
And they do it again in the fourth quarter to remind people what they saw in the second quarter for Christmas. So it's actually really, really, really pricey. When you think about it, it's like $80 to $120 million. Excuse me.
No worries.
So, yeah, advertising is costly. When you think about TV commercials, they got to pay a company to actually create the commercial. Mm-hmm. Now they have the commercial. What are you going to do with it? You're going to put it on TV. Well, you think about, we'll just use CBS for an example. How many TV shows do they have? How many shows are you going to put that commercial on? Okay, now you got that all paid for and done. Now you have NBC, you have ABC, you have TNT, you have USA, TBS, HBO, Showtime, well, all these different channels.
Right.
You think about maybe something like, should I do this? Free advertising for Fanta? How many times they advertise, right? Those girls.
Right.
So how many times they advertise and where do they advertise? They don't only do TV and radio. They do billboards and they do, print ads. Right? San Francisco Bay Area alone, if they did a print ad, would be $40 to $60 million a quarter. Well, what about Dallas market? What about Orlando? What about Miami? What about New York? What about Chicago and Toronto?
Right.
Then where else in the world do they advertise? Then you think racing. How much is that?
Right.
Right.
A fraction. Right.
$100,000 per year. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, even a small company, when they say, "Oh man, that's a lot of money. We don't know if we can do that." Well, look what you're getting. Not only are you getting that exposure, you're actually creating fans of your brand. Because now Franklin Armory can sell T-shirts. Not only are they advertising for you by wearing the T-shirt, they just paid for it.
Right.
Typically, they have to pay for the advertising. Now people are paying them to advertise.
Yeah.
So, but that's racing. Football doesn't do that. How many times do you see I don't know, Chicago Bears? And I know they have sponsors, but it's not on their jerseys.
Right.
Right. You might only see those sponsors at the stadium when you're there.
Yeah.
But you don't see them in TV cameras.
True.
Generally not.
Right.
So it's like racing in any form of racing. It seems like it's more cost effective, less expensive, and you can get more. It depends on how the race team does it and the activation from the company.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I had. I talked to Corey Coulter a couple episodes back, and we talked about that problem, right? It feels like sometimes, and it's definitely true for MotoGP, for example, if you're in the bottom half or bottom third of the results, your bike is on screen maybe 8 seconds out of, out of the hour, right? Like you're barely on. And then seemingly the sponsor is like, well, I'm not getting that value because, dude, they see my logo for those 4 seconds.
Right.
Is that true? Is that something? How do you combat that? Do you just have to do better? How do you get around that?
How you combat that is a lot of it's going to be on the racer, because the racer is going to be kind of like in baseball, the racer is more like the pitcher. In football, the racer is more like the quarterback, where it gets all the attention.
Right.
So the racer has to be the one to help possibly the race team owner to maybe social media exposure. If it's not just like Instagram or Snapchat, Facebook, you can do like YouTube videos. What are you doing when you're not racing? So there's a interesting thing about people is they all want to be a part of a winning team,
right,
if you will. And so if someone's winning, that's why race winners, champions, they actually get a lot more followers. It goes faster. When you think about it, okay, I guess you can actually do a little experiment and look up on possibly Instagram. See how many followers Cameron Bovier has versus who races right now that's in the back. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know all their names.
We don't have to call them out. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can go on TV and find and see who's there. Someone who's maybe doesn't race all the races. They don't go to the whole season, and find out where how many followers they have. Kind of, you can see it actually in the ball sports, where San Francisco 49ers, when they do well, everyone wears their jerseys.
Right.
When they don't do well, no one's wearing their jerseys. And it's the same for every single team. Fair weather fans, they call them, right?
Right.
So when you win more, you can actually you should take advantage of that and get more exposure, because to be honest, this is actually something that actually a really good friend of mine actually taught me. MotoAmerica does not have an obligation to help you get sponsorship. They might provide a platform. When you think about YouTube videos, for example, or even podcasts, they provide the platform. And it depends on what you do gets you more viewers. And maybe for YouTube, I know there's ad revenue and stuff like that, or your partnership program where you can actually make money. But if you don't do a good job and leverage that platform the best you can, then you don't do well. So MotoAmerica gives you the platform, and it depends on what you do as an individual or a team. You can actually do something with it, and you can say, well, Mr. Sponsor or Mrs. Sponsor, we're at MotoAmerica, we got some TV time, but I have all this as well. It's like I got fries and a shake along with that burger, or someone else might just have the burger, right?
So what you're telling me is that in 2020, being a winner on Instagram is just as important as winning races. That social media is huge.
Correct. So you can get like a really good looking woman. Look, Instagram models, right? They're a dime a dozen.
Sure.
But you can get someone that's dressed up in a big thick sweater and some baggy pants, and with that big hat on and maybe a parka. You get that same model, put her in a bikini, do up her hair and everything like that, and she's gonna get more views. You get more followers.
Right.
So it's not Instagram that does it. It's what you do when you're on Instagram. So yeah.
Okay. So there's an old Chinese saying. I think it's Chinese, because my dad used to say it all the time.
You're not going to say it Chinese, are you?
No, I'm not going to say it in Chinese. There's an old saying that says, if money can solve an issue, it's not a problem. Right? If money can solve a problem, it's not a problem.
Yes.
How true is that in sports? And is really money what it takes to win national titles?
Well, this past year proved that money didn't. It matters. It's like, people say that money's not everything. They're correct. They say it's not important as love. Yeah, you're correct. But Visa's not going to accept your love. They're going to want your money. So the thing is, Money is important where it works, and it's not important where it doesn't work. Money might make things happen faster. If you were to race on a budget and you have like gobs of talent, you're just winning, and then people see that, and they may have their doubts at first, but if you keep winning, someone's going to come on board. Someone's going to say, you know what, I want to be a part of that. And some sponsors might even say, we want to see you with more social media exposure, but you know what, we see what you're doing. They may be able to help. We have social media people that can actually help you. It actually helps them when they help the racer. I'm not saying they're going to do that all the time, because they're probably not going to put too much resources into, you know, somebody else. They're going to save that for themselves. And if they can have you be a part of some kind of social media thing, I don't know, I'm sure what those, then they might do that. But you know, they're not going to dedicate their whole social media department, if they have one, or the person, solely to the racer, for example. But they can use the help. But you're right. Money is not everything. It definitely does help. If I was independently wealthy, we could race without a problem, while we're looking for sponsorship that can take over, that I don't have to deplete my bank account, and it gets things started quicker. But it's not everything. I know. I think some people would argue the opposite, but
yeah. Now, this might not be a question for you. This might be a team, you know, a guy who's running the team. You know, it could be the crew chief. But is there a seasonal gameplay here? Do you look at the season, look at all your tracks, and say, you know what, we're not going to be as competitive for these races, so we're going to look for a top 10 or top 8 finish. But these ones will go really good. We're going to put all the resources for these 6 tracks that we know we're going to kick butt in, and we're going to make sure you finish in the top 2 or 3. Is there a seasonal strategy? How does that even work?
You know, the quick answer is I don't know. But I can tell you how I imagine it would go, and I would tell you how I think Andrew would approach it, and Derek.
Okay.
I think all 3 of us would agree that you don't go in thinking that you're not going to win. You're at every single track, every single race, you're there to win, and you don't want anything but. I heard Andrew in an interview one time. It was a podcast, and it was just him and some other racers talking, and he says when he doesn't win, it kills him. He said he got passed one time. Ashton Yates passed him at Pittsburgh. Yeah. He says he didn't like that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he did not like that. He says there's no way anybody should be passing me. That's his attitude. Wow. I know Derek. He doesn't go after any race that he thinks he's not going to win. He expects to win. This past season, every single race that I went to, I went in and I didn't think that we're going to place anything else but first. Was the 4th and 3rd and 2nd place a disappointment? No. Well, that's a lie, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit. But right. with Andrew's injury, you know, in my mind, I thought, okay, you know what? Well, there's a chance that maybe we're not going to do as well as I would like. I actually thought when he got that 4th place finish, I thought that he was going to make a move and finish on the podium. It just didn't happen. Right. And then he got that 3rd place in Wisconsin, and he got the 2nd, and I knew that he was on his way back already. Before the Utah race, I had a conversation with Derek, called him up on the phone, and he said, yeah, Andrew's working out again. As a matter of fact, one of the other team members, I think it was a mechanic on a different team, he was like, I don't know if you can cuss on this thing or not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh. So like I said, how the guy asked Derek how Andrew's doing, and I think the guy said, "Oh shit," because then he said, "Yeah, he's in the gym, he's working out again." He's like, "Oh shit, we're not gonna win." So yeah, after Andrew got his health back, that was it. And you know, he was right. He won at Utah. He won everything after that.
Wow. That's always something that's fascinated me. Just the mindset of a racer, how they're just able to overcome any obstacles that are in their way. And you know, come race day, it doesn't really matter, right? They're there to win, and it guts them if they're not, you know, on the podium, right?
Yeah, the mindset's a lot. I mean, in anything you do, it's like looking for sponsorship. Mindset there is, I'm not sure about everything. Could be everything, but I think it's a lot. You know, if you go in, you know, you want to approach a potential sponsor and you think you're not going to get it, then yeah, of course you're going to screw it up. You know, I'm the type that I look into. I study a lot of different things. One of them is how the human mind works in the subconscious. And if you think you're not going to get it, then your subconscious has to go to work to prove you right. So if you think you're not going to get it, then your subconscious will pretty much sabotage you. It's actually been worded as self-fulfilling prophecy. You probably heard of that one.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Yeah. So self-fulfilling prophecy is when you say, well, I'm probably not going to get it. And now your subconscious mind goes to work to prove you right. So if you say I can't afford it, your subconscious mind has to prove you right. If you think that, yeah, we're not going to win this race, then your subconscious mind has to prove you right.
Right.
So you end up not doing well, and then you wonder why.
Hmm.
I don't know how many racers know this.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't study it. It's not fun, right?
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I definitely fall into that trap. You know, I get nervous every time I do a podcast. I know we've only done a handful, but I get nervous every time, and I'm like, oh man, this is the one where I'm just being like, that's all, folks, right? And so you know, in my previous life, I used to be a sales guy, so. And I'm not a natural salesman, so I do understand it's something that you have to actively work on. You have to be very, very self-aware, and to know that you can turn it on. Maybe you're not an extrovert. I'm not a natural extrovert. I'd love nothing more to be quarantined 24/7, 365 with a computer in front of me, right? I'm happy not to talk to you. No offense. I'm not. I'm happy just to be by myself, right?
Yeah.
But hearing from interesting people and having interesting conversation is something that I'm excited for, right? To be. So I love being able. So don't worry about ranting. I love being able to ask you a question and have you carry on for 15 minutes because that fascinates me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I can be long-winded.
No worries, not at all. And again, Dan can always cut you off. Dan can always cut you off in post. No, that's not going to happen. When you're talking about you've done a lot of audiobooks, you've done a lot of reading. What is one of your favorite books to help you put you to where you are today? Because you definitely have a very, very strong mentality. You know, what are some of the books that have helped you along the way?
Well, the first book was suggested to me was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, which is, you know, how do people with money think? And you know, I learned that they do think differently. And I have another book around here someplace that I can't remember the title of it, but there's a bunch of small little things that it's not even by chapters, I don't think, but a lot of different examples of this is how rich people think, here's how middle class people think, here's how poor people think, and they're very different. So it's in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. It doesn't say that anybody is right or anybody is wrong. It's just understanding that there's different ways of thinking, and they all yield different results for your life. So, and to know the difference, you know, like pretty much like self-fulfilling prophecies. You know, if you say you can't, like that old cliche, right? Whether you say that you can or you can't, you're right. Because your subconscious will cause you to be right.
Right.
The other book that actually sticks out in my head is actually The Magic of Thinking Big. Okay. So I can't tell you how many times I tell people I want to have this big race team with 2 racers with the semi and everything, right? And I can't tell you how many times I get people telling me, "Oh, you got to crawl before you walk, right? You got to walk before you run." And I'm like, "You need to read a few books, because you know if you shoot for the stars, you at least hit the moon." Right. So like this one guy, I remember some time ago, it was back before he became a millionaire. He's like, I think he makes like 16 million a year, and he said a goal for himself to make $100,000 this particular year, and he made 92,000. He said, "Did I consider that a failure?" He said, "No." But now the next year he upped his goal. He didn't leave it at 100,000 until he hit it. I'm not sure if what he jumped it up to 150, 125, 200. I'm not sure what.
Right.
But every time that you raise it, you might fall short because you aim for the stars, but you hit the moon, and you keep going further and further and further. So my whole plan is I want the big race team. As a matter of fact, when I first started, I said, you know what? I want to build the very first motorcycle road racing dynasty, similar to NASCAR, where there's 4 rigs, 4 separate teams, and 4 sponsors.
Wow. Yeah.
4 primary sponsors. That's what I wanted to build. I still do. And a lot of people would say, oh, good luck, right? And roll their eyes and everything. But if I aim for that and I have only one, great. And if I aim for that and I get one, okay, who's to say that that's just the first brick in my wall? Not wall. That's a Trump thing. In my house, right? It could be the first brick in my house.
Right.
Then I still aim for that 4 and I get 2. And if that's all I achieve, then great, that's fine. But I have a mind that keeps wanting to go forward and keep progressing more and more and more. So and to never give up. As a matter of fact, a lot of people say, man, my mom, for one, she says she's proud of me because I've never given up. She said I would have gave up a long time ago. And I said, yeah, but what do you keep hearing from anybody who ever achieved anything? They had an interview. They say, if you couldn't give any advice you can to any young person that's trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve, what would you tell them? They'd never give up. They always say that, but people always give up. I can't remember the percentage. It's like 90, 95, 97% of all failures come from quitting. So don't ever quit. I mean, you can put things on the back burner. That's okay. You didn't quit. You just put it off for a little while until you get some stuff straightened out and just keep going. Yeah. It's like a race. That's a racer mentality. Never give up.
Right.
You run off the track, but you just kind of say, oh, well, I guess I'm going to be last. No. You see them. They fight hard to get back up there to the front.
Yeah.
They do it all the time.
Never
give up. It's a racer mentality, I guess. I'm not even a racer.
When did you have this idea that you wanted to run or own a race team? Like, when did that even start?
It happened during AMA. I want to say it's 2009.
Okay.
That's when I said earlier about, I just realized, hey, racing was just another business. Because I talked to different team members at NASCAR and IndyCar, and I'm like, these are just regular people. The owner is just a regular dude. Yeah. And I'm like, well, why can't that be me? Right? Anything anybody ever wants. Why can't that be you? You have the same arms, the same brain, the same legs, the same body as anybody else. Maybe it's the rich, middle class, and poor. Maybe someone's thinking is not where it needs to be to achieve the thing that they want. I don't know. Maybe that is, maybe it's not. I haven't really talked to a lot of people about it, but I know what I want, and I know how I need to think in order to achieve that, which is never give up, aim for the stars, keep going.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess to answer your question, it was in 2009 when I realized that it's regular people just like me.
So you've done it for at least 10 years now, pretty much.
I didn't. Actually, I did. A lot of those years, not months, not days, not weeks. A lot of those years were me doing nothing because I was not in a position to do anything. They don't teach us stuff in school, so it's not like I was waiting to graduate. Right. And then after I graduated from learning how to put together a race team, that I decided to do it. There's a lot of mistakes. I tell you, the number one mistake. Well, number one. There's plenty of mistakes. I don't know if this is number one, but one of the big mistakes that I realized I did make was I told too many people what I was going to do before I was ready to do it. Because now in their mind, I'm full of crap. I'm pipe dreaming. I'm all talk and no action. But really, I didn't know it. I wasn't really ready. So, but that's also the first level of belief that people are going to have in what you're doing is when you tell them. Maybe you have to put a little caveat in there saying, hey, I'm not ready. It might take some time, but this is what I'm planning on doing. Maybe down the road a little bit more, but I'm putting together a plan to do this, whatever that is. Second level of belief in racing is when you actually have a race bike, not a street bike, because everybody has those. But when the bike's actual race bike and it's ready to be put on the track, that's the second level of belief, and it's a big jump from 1 to 2. The first thing when you tell people to actually have the bike on the track. And then the last level of belief that people have when they really know that you're really serious is when you have a racer on the bike and it's on the track. Doesn't have to be a race. Could be just breaking it in. And that's what I noticed when the different things I went through. And if I can do it, if anybody wanted to ask me what to do, I would say, don't tell anybody what you're doing until you're ready to do it. Because they think you're full of crap.
No, I mean, this is how the podcast started. The podcast was Dan texted me one day. He goes, "You ever thought of doing a podcast?" I said, "No." He goes, "Do you want to talk to a couple of my friends?" I said, "Sure." And that's it. We just doing it. And I think I like you. I agree. It's always 2 feet in and swim like you just got off the Titanic, right? And never stop, right? So I wholeheartedly believe in that kind of work ethics. Now, you told me in the beginning of your podcast that your second most favorite job or the best position was working at Apple. You don't have to tell me if you work at Apple now, but what was that like? What did you do at Apple, and how did you bring something at your time working at Apple that translated to you running or owning a team?
Nothing that I got from Apple translated to me running teams. As a matter of fact, when I bought my race bike, I was actually working at Apple at that time, and I was actually a contractor at corporate headquarters. I was a QA engineer. I didn't do much QA, and I wasn't an engineer. But hey, my title, right? So I guess I can tell people I was an engineer. I was more data collection. Okay. So what we did is every time it was funny because we actually had the brand new iPhones that weren't even out yet. And they had a special case around it, so you can't really tell what it was. And we're walking around San Francisco just grabbing GPS data because they're constantly trying to improve the GPS constantly. They're working on it like every single day. There's a new version of the iOS, and it has to be tested. We tested the location part of it. There's a lot of other people that test other different parts of it, but we just did location only. And there's a brand new version every single day that needed to be tested. And it never worked right. Until it was released, for some reason, I don't know what they did, everything worked great after it was released. But during the testing, it's like, man, this thing doesn't work right. Is this thing really ready? And then all of a sudden it gets released. I'm like, wow, this thing's amazing. So I don't know. I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you how they do it. But it was great. It was a really good job. It just sucked that it had to end. But hey, like everything, right? Everything ends at some point.
Right. Yeah. So you and I have a similar background. I also started off as a QA engineer, having never studied engineering. And again, but that was the title. But I did QA, so I guess that was the difference. I did some hardcore QA, so that was not the most fun thing. In fact, my story it's kind of funny too because right now I still have a daytime job. But when I first joined that company, I was hired as a QA, and I lasted like 3 months. And after 3 months, the CEO comes over and he goes, "Dude, you talk way too much to be in QA. Do you want to try sales?" And I went. And at the time, I had a photography business. Yeah, I had a wedding photography business at the time, and he knew this. That was my side hustle. And he's like, "Dude, you know what? It's the same thing. Selling what we do, selling the product, is the same thing as you trying to sell your wedding photography services. It's the same thing, right? If you can get guys to buy your pictures, you can get guys to buy your product." And that's what I did. I did it for a total of 2.5 years, and then I started my own business. And then it didn't go as well as I had hoped. Unlike you, I did tap out and I quit. And I went back to the company that I'm at now, which I was at before. So the company, I left and went back to the same company. And ever since then, I've had various different roles. But it's kind of funny how that stuff works, right? Because I am not a QA person by trade. Like, that is not me. I'm detail oriented up to a point, and then I'm like, does anybody really care?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is anybody going to notice this font being the wrong size or being a slightly different font? But I'm like, honestly, do you think my father who's watching a YouTube video will see that title for 3 seconds and never think twice again? So that wasn't the perfect fit for me either.
What you do is you make all the fonts different sizes to make it look like you did it on purpose.
That's a good tip and trick. I'm gonna have to try that in the next video edit. I'm gonna make your name have all different fonts.
There you go. You know what you do? You make it look like a ransom note with like the cutouts from the newspaper and magazines.
And that's our brand, right?
Yeah. I I think you might be able to find a font like that where you just type it in and it does it automatically for you.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that exists.
Yeah.
Talking about branding, how much of it is branding for your team? How much of that does it matter? I know the social media stuff we already talked about is important, but
Yeah.
does the branding? Do you have to get the branding right, or what?
You know, I guess you nailed one of my weak points. I don't know. So when I don't know, I want to do more of it because I don't want to make an error on not doing it enough.
Mm,
Because I know that, like, for example, in any brand, right? Any like soda brand, they want their stuff out there a lot because So as a matter of fact, this is one thing I told somebody. I'm not sure if this answers your question. You let me know if I still need to answer it or not. But I asked someone, I asked a lot of people, like, do you know what Coca-Cola is?
of course.
Do you think that there's anybody that does not know what Coca-Cola is?
Nobody.
Yeah. So why do they have to advertise?
Right.
So they always put their stuff out there all the time because they want, when you're thirsty, they want your first thought to be is Coca-Cola, right? And everybody wants that. Fanta, Dr. Pepper, everybody wants that.
Right.
Even the water brands, right? So, so as far as branding goes, I figured that I want to do that as well, and do as much as I can. And I know I'll fall short because I'm not really good at it. I didn't really study too much on that one, but like for example, the bodywork on the first bike was gray, and they put RG Racing all over the place. And I said, no, you don't need to do that. I mean, this is not all about me. It's about, I want people to understand that there's room for sponsorship logos on here. So, but it's okay. Whatever. It was already on there. It's fine. I just didn't think RG Racing should have been all over it. Maybe it should have been. I don't know.
Right.
Like I said, not my strong suit, but.
Right. So basically, you want Coca-Cola RG Racing.
If Coca-Cola can give me the money, because the amount of money that we need would be a drop in the Coca-Cola bucket.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, take it out of the spare change jar. That's good."
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think I got $1 million in my couch cushion someplace. You can find it. You can have it.
that is nuts. So, yeah, because you're telling me it was like what 60 million for a quarter of advertisement, like for that quarter.
$40 to $60 million in a medium-sized market like the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah. And Coca-Cola's like, "Oh, do you take cash?"
Yeah. Here's my ATM. Just you slide it whenever you need to take some money. So, exactly. And I know that number's correct because at the time I told my brother, and he says, "No way, no. Are you sure it's not 4 to 6 million?" I said, "Well, when I go to work tomorrow, I'll ask him again." And I asked him again. He says, "Yes, $40 to $60 million." I said, "San Francisco Bay Area." He said, "Yeah." I said, "1 quarter." He said, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." Then I heard it right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I didn't believe it either. I was like, "Holy moly!" So how much money are these companies spending? How much money are they making? You think about, how much they put into a bottle. Okay, you know what? I'm going to give you an example. My friend and I, we have this thing. This is not it, but we made some selfie stick type of things. This is not the one, but just for the tripod mount, this GoPro tripod mount right here.
Yeah.
You can buy them like for I think $7 at the store. Our very, very, very low volume, we ordered them from China for $1 each.
Wow.
So, I can imagine someone like GoPro or like a larger company that can just buy a lot of them. It'd be less than $1.
Yeah.
And so it's like, wow, okay, how much money are you making then? I do not. There is a action camera. I don't know if I should say the brand. I'm gonna leave the brand name out of it.
Sure.
And somebody said, man, if I made, they were actually a friend of the owner. Man, if I made 350% on a product, man, I'd be rich right now. I made 350% on profit on the action camera.
Wow.
So yeah, they have a lot of money to actually throw around that most people don't realize, but I don't think they want people to know. Sorry for outing you, companies.
No. Yeah, I do know a little bit about logistics and supply chain from China.
Oh, okay.
I've read a bunch of books. One of my favorite books is, I think it's called Poorly Made in China. I can't remember who the author was, but it was a really, really great book and really, really good insight as to how China does business. I said in a previous podcast, I actually have an uncle who owns a factory. I don't actually think he owns a factory. I think it's my uncle's son-in-law who owns the factory. Doesn't matter. He's associated with the factory in some way, and it's like a city block. Like it literally took me 4 hours to go from one end of the factory to the other, and I didn't hit everything, right? And you'd be surprised at how many millionaires there are just by making stupid little parts like the handle for your suitcase. That little handle that goes up and down.
Yeah.
He made them by the millions, right? He had different stickers to put on different suitcases. I mean, it was just all him, and it's crazy. And they could be 20 cents to the dollar, right? On the dollar for one of these things, but you're making a volume, you do enough. The other thing I've found out recently about China is, you've heard of AliExpress? You've heard of Alibaba, AliExpress, right? Yep. I didn't know this. It's free shipping. You wonder, how can you be free shipping on like a 40-cent little plastic doohickey that you buy, right? How can it be free shipping? Where do they make the money? Well, apparently the Chinese government sponsors the shipping. They pay for that company's shipping because it's like a grant, right? It's like a business loan, like a business grant, right? If you want to start a business in AliExpress, we will pay or we will subsidize a bit of your shipping.
I didn't know that.
It's just the Chinese. Yeah, I didn't know that either. But apparently, it's the Chinese government way of stimulating the economy and getting people to sell stuff, and so that's why you're able to buy stuff so cheap.
Huh. Yeah. Okay.
That's kind of crazy to me.
Kind of makes me want to buy stuff from China, but I don't want to buy things from China, so I don't know what to do.
No?
I don't know. The ZX10 made in China. What would that be like?
It wouldn't be very well. I think there's a common joke in China is when you buy a car from China, for the first 2 years everything works, and then after 2 years everything makes a noise except the horn. So, kind of butchered up that joke. It'd be a lot funnier if I said it smoothly, but you get the idea, right? I would not trust buying a bike.
Okay.
So have you had the pleasure of riding the race bike when they're not?
No.
The race
bike? As a matter of fact, the race bike I still have it. The 2016. Andrew doesn't race it anymore, but it's sitting over at my friend's shop. And he was like one of the smaller sponsors, NCA Motorsports. He sponsored anything that we needed. We get it at cost through his shop. So we actually got a pretty good deal on some things if we needed it. I've sat on it, but I've never rode it. And people asked me, why don't you ride it? And I said, well, because it's a business asset. Like the owner of the bus company, he doesn't drive the buses around and take them home, right? It's a business asset, and if something ever happened to it, I have an accident or someone hits me, like I've been rear-ended a couple times in my car, and I got T-boned in my parents' car one time.
Wow.
And none of them were my fault. So what if something like that happens? Like, sorry, Andrew, you got another ride. I got a little Z125 for you.
Yeah.
Or a scooter.
Yeah.
Pit bike.
Yeah. I was gonna say, well, what if it was like 3 a.m. and then I just realized the race bike's not gonna have any lights?
You know what? I guess I can jump on it now because I'm not really racing it. As a matter of fact, I have a pretty good friend of mine that actually is looking at buying it. He actually started up his own business, and he was going to gift it to somebody, another business for investing in his company. But that didn't happen. The whole Corona thing happened, and I'm not sure if it's ever going to happen again. But if it does, I also don't want anything to happen to it. So
yeah. How much does the bike change year over year? If I took out your 2016 bike today, could I be competitive if I was a competent rider?
If you're a competent rider, this is more of an Andrew question.
Well, he's gonna say yes, right?
Yeah. I do know. Well, after Chuck Gray's got his hands on the 2019 bike, I don't think there was too much difference between the 18 and 19. But after Chuck got his hands on it, Andrew did go faster. So I don't know if it's because it was a different year bike or not. I don't think there's too much of a difference. There's mostly different. I know there's a difference in electronics, and I'm not too sure about the motor. I think everything else is the same.
Right.
You know, I'm actually hoping that they're coming out with something new in 2021. You know, we'll see. They haven't really announced anything yet, but I guess we'll wait.
How much does racing have influence on the design of the bike? I mean, we're not talking about like homogenization where, you know, you build specific bikes and you sell a very small subset. But
Yeah.
how much does Kawasaki look at the racing teams and said, you know what, we should come up with better Brembo bikes that we sell to all their bikes so that they can take it and put it on the super, like have the super stock race it?
Yeah.
Is there any
Okay.
influence at all?
Okay. My official answer is I don't know. But I did have a conversation with Derek, and I think I can say this because this happened years ago,
Okay.
where Derek was talking about the was it traction control? I can't remember. It was something, some part of electronics in the bike that they were developing for World Superbike, and he was saying that today, that particular part, I said traction control. I'm not really sure if it was or not, but that particular thing is actually way better than what World Superbike had back then years ago. So I think it does play a big part. You know, this more probably a Derek question than it is a Rick question. You know, if you want to talk about business, I might know something about that. But as far as like, you know, Kawasaki and what they do and why they do it, I think they do. I think it plays a big role because, you know, I think they, like most motorsports, the manufacturer uses that for what they're going to put on their street bikes. That is kind of like testing. And it's like, you know, I wondered this when this whole Corona thing came out. How much pet medicine is actually testing for human medicine? That they don't really tell you, right?
Right.
You don't know. They don't want you testing on animals. But if they say, hey, there's a new medicine for your dog, well, how different is one animal versus another, right? How different is a dog than us if they test on dogs and cats and monkeys and rabbits or whatever? If they test on them, then it has to be some similarities to us.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I've always thought, you know what, if you've got a convicted rapist that you can prove that he did it, right, or a pedophile, let's just test it on him. Like let's give him,
yeah.
hey man, I mean, I'm not out to kill you, right? But I think you can help the human cause, and I think you can redeem yourself ever so slightly if you're willing to try, you know, Corona injection number 45, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like
we got COVID 45 for you.
COVID 45, right? Have a sip of the COVID 45. What do you think? Of the 40
Yeah.
ounce, right? And like I wouldn't have no problem if you are convicted and we can prove via DNA testing that you've done the crime, then you can help out humanity by doing.
Yeah. Say, yeah, make a deal for you. No jail time. What, really? But
Yeah. Try out this prosthetic arm. But how about
this? Now rub your eyes.
So speaking of coronavirus, are you in the conspiracy theory, theorist camp where it is a man-made virus and lab?
My official answer is I don't know, because
okay.
I'm not behind these doors, either fighting it or planning it or whatever's going on. I just wonder, why is there a patent for COVID-19? I don't know, because I do know this. Because the reason why that, you know, the pharmaceutical companies are fighting CBD, even though everyone's seeing positive results from CBD, and the pharmaceutical companies are fighting it because the pharmaceutical companies cannot patent anything that occurs naturally in nature. So if you can't patent it, that means it's happened naturally. If COVID-19 happened naturally, then they couldn't patent it, but they did. Now, I'm not making any claims. I'm just wondering why, how, I don't know. I don't know enough to really say, but I'm like, hey, answer this one for us, please. I don't know.
I didn't even know it was patented. Now there was a news article in Toronto, maybe about a month ago. There were two lawyers, I think in Montreal, that were trying to patent the name COVID-19. I didn't realize the strain itself has been patented to some degree. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
I saw the patent in the patent number. I don't know off the top of my head because it's like, I I got a race team to worry about. I can't really get into this stuff. So I just saw it, and I just saw a bunch of names that they wore the patent to, and they're a bunch of doctors.
Hmm.
They're a bunch of doctors, and they're out of like Atlanta.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, my friend taught me this a long time ago. I think he called it circle of influence. So he said, imagine yourself cracking an egg on a pot in a pan, and everything inside the yolk is anything you can influence. Everything else is egg white that you can't influence. So forget all that. COVID-19 to me is egg white. I can't influence. I can't do anything about that. So I don't worry about it. What I can do is I could submit my marketing proposal to a company. That's something that I can do. So that's what I worry about more. And, I talked to Derek, I talked to Andrew, I talked to Dylan, the mechanic, to let them know where we at, what's going on, if anything. And that's all I can do. So I do the things that I can influence, and everything else to me, it's like, shrug my shoulders, whatever. Just take care of it, and let's get back to normal life.
Yeah. So are you now spending a lot of time maintaining the relationships and sponsorships that you have and getting ready for the 2020 season? Or is it kind of like just wait and see? What are you doing in that regard?
Okay. I didn't really tell you everything at the beginning, but remember I said that Franklin Armory is a sponsorship that Andrew and his dad kind of put together? Mm-hmm. Well, the Grays Motorsports also was something that Andrew put together. Chuck actually approached Andrew. So a lot of all the Graves parts, or the clip-ons, the rear sets, and I'm not sure what else, the case covers, maybe they changed the cam gear. I'm not sure. Anything that comes from Graves is through Andrew. The Franklin Armory is through Andrew. And it's not like he bought a ride. He did not buy a ride, because the sprockets, I think it was Vortex. I know it's Vortex. And I think Andrew got that one too. It's been a long relationship that they had. On my race bike, I had a deal with Evol Technology, so we had their clip-ons and their rear sets. I had a deal through Driven, so I had their sprockets. I bought my own chain. I like the DAD chain, and chain companies, they aren't really sponsoring too many people. So I did Jesse Kaler build the bike. I bought like case covers and things like case savers or whatever they're called. I bought all that stuff separately. So the bodywork I actually bought myself. I wasn't sponsored. And so everything that I put together, we didn't even use, especially last year. Everything was through Andrew. So it's like I told Dan, I said, race team owner, I use the term loosely, because if anything, it could have been a sponsorship between Andrew and myself, but mostly Andrew put had all these things put together, and it's like, you know what, these people are actually buying into you and your talent and what you can do, so let's just go with that, because it was a much better deal and a much better things than I had put together leading up to last year. Even I would even say no, you know what? Some of the parts on the 2018 bike were Evol. I think the rear sets were. So it's kind of like a little hybrid. 2019 is more like when Chuck Graves came on board, and Andrew Dright raced from. I don't know what it was, right. But so we use a bunch of Graves stuff, which is great. I really like their stuff. Yeah, I really like Chuck too. It's really weird. He's kind of quiet a little bit, and I always thought, usually you kind of can't get a read on someone when they don't really talk too much. But I found out he's actually a cool dude. He's like a regular guy. Yeah, he's actually really nice.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So, final question here.
Yep.
You talked earlier about wanting to have a eventual dynasty as one of your kind of soft goals, or maybe it's a hard goal to have multiple racing teams. What is a smaller goal that we can help promote for you or with you, and that, like, what is the one next thing that you want to do to knock out as a life goal?
Next thing you want to knock out as a life goal, other than getting that McLaren?
Yeah.
Are you saying you can help me get that?
Definitely, I can pay for the little, what did you call that little cap on the on the tire cap. I can pay for that.
How many people would you have to talk to? You have to talk to 400,000 people to donate $1 each.
Wow, that's not insane. It's possible. It's
Yeah.
doable.
As a matter of fact, it's like $380,000 for like upper end one. As a matter of fact, you can get one used for like 340.
Yeah,
Talk to
I'm
340,000 people.
I'm Chinese. I'm all about the used vehicle, right? I'm not gonna buy brand new. I'll take
Oh
a
yeah.
secondhand exotic, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. They're low mileage anyway.
There you go, right? Nobody really
Yeah.
drives them.
Right. Right. But for a race team, shorter term goal is racing next year, race Superbike next year. But that's, as a matter of fact, racing Superbike next year is more costly than the McLaren.
Yes, that's just what I'm. This is what I kind of understand when I did a little bit of
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
Superbike is a very, very expensive proposition.
It is.
Right.
But if we, the sponsor that I was talking to, that they said yes for this year, but it looks more like it's going to be next year. Last time I talked to them, they said the answer still is yes.
Okay, good.
But it'll be next year. We didn't talk a dollar amount yet, so I'm not sure what they're talking about. I'm not sure if it's possible, but they've been around racing a lot. They're in MotoGP and they're in World Superbike, and I think they're in European series also. I'm not sure which one or ones, and they want to be in Superbike, and I would imagine that they understand how expensive Superbike is, and they're not thinking $100,000. I hope not.
Right. Right.
Because I don't think anybody that's been in racing that long thinks that is the budget for Superbike's $100,000-200,000. It's
Right.
way more than that.
Right. Now, and obviously that's $100,000 before you have to pay for the rider. That's just equipment and crew.
Let's see. On a really tight budget, we were looking at, it was just under 500,000, and
Wow.
that's struggling. That's actually struggling.
This for Superbike, or are you talking about Super Sport? Or sorry, Super Stock?
Superbike.
Okay, right.
And we talked to somebody, I'm not going to really mention who, but we talked to somebody, another pretty good sized team, to get everything rolling, and not paying the racer would be $3 million for Superbike.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How much involvements do you get? How much support do you get from the OEMs? Like, if you're racing Kawasaki, does Kawasaki chip in any sort of way, or is like go with God and figure it out?
They the last thing I heard, Kawasaki USA, they were very careful with their budget, I guess I should say. They, in 2018, I don't know, I'm not sure what they did this year. I know they did something, I don't know what. It's more of a Derek question because we got this through Derek. 2018, they gave us a parts budget, and that was because of Derek, and that was because they had already known what Andrew did in the winter series at CVMA, 2017-18. So I don't know. I'm not sure what they did last year. That would have been a Derek thing. Anything that we needed, like we need another clutch, Derek would bring it. So we needed brake pads, Derek would bring it. Right. I assume it came out of that parts budget, but I don't know because it didn't come out of my bank account.
Okay.
It was either Andrew, it was either sponsorship money, or Derek got it through the parts budget, and that's it. If we had a budget, it's because Derek's relationship is works for Kawasaki, and it could have been because they're backing Andrew, and there are people in Kawasaki Japan, I think, that actually do like Andrew a lot. As a matter of fact, that's right. You need to talk to Andrew.
Okay.
He's actually picked up a pretty good fan base in Japan.
Interesting. Awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, you should talk to him.
Yeah.
I have some pretty good stuff to tell you.
I would definitely love to have him on. We'll talk about it after the show.
Okay.
So finally, you're on all the social platform. How do we find you on Instagram? Is that rg.racing?
Yep, rg.racing. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you on Twitter? Is there anything else that we should follow you on?
I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. Like, I think it's Rick Gray, or I'm not even sure. I think it might be RG Racing or one RG Racing. I can't remember what it is. I don't go on Twitter very much.
Okay.
I did it so that I can enter contests and I can say that I shared their thing, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I don't really go on Twitter. I'm on Facebook at RG Racing. As a matter of fact, this is funny. There's an R and G Racing. but their website and all their social media is RG Racing.
Huh.
They leave the and out.
Huh.
And they're actually a pretty good sized company, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, I get people tagging me thinking that it's R and G because they see the logo. I'm like, oh,
Right.
it's not me, but I'll take the exposure.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, when you're watching, make sure you go rg.racing, not RNG, all right?
Yeah, thanks.
All right, cool. Yeah, again, thanks very much for your time. I really enjoyed it. I've always been fascinated with bikes, and I've always thought, to be a team owner was going to be like, wow, this guy is like, but you down to earth, which I like, and you're a
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
cool
thanks.
dude. So thanks so much for talking to me.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll see you soon.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye now.